Good evening, Professor. Our team, comprising Alicia, Denil, Malvinder, and myself, Rahul, are here to discuss the effects of natural disasters on economy and tourism in Japan. What is a natural disaster? A natural disaster can be described as an event or a mishap out of the control of man, caused due to natural reasons. They can be classified into two. Climatic disasters can be tornadoes, tsunamis, cyclones, hurricanes, and the list goes on. Geologic disasters can be earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. One of the major talking points of 2011 was the Japan earthquake, which shook the core of Japan inside out. On March 11, 2011, the dogs of horror were let loose by the forces of nature when an earthquake of 9.0 magnitude on the Richter scale hit Japan on its northeastern coast of Sendai region. It brought with it massive destruction to life and property. What started as an earthquake turned into a tsunami, as a result of which a nuclear power plant in Fukushima prefecture was shut down due to a meltdown in certain areas of the plant. This earthquake, also termed as the triple disaster, claimed approximately 20,000 lives and wide-scale damage to property and livelihood. The Tohoku earthquake is considered the largest and the most destructive earthquakes in the history of Japan. The earthquake occurred 80 miles offshore and soon turned into waves of disaster, with a height of at least 80 feet. The Pacific tectonic plate collided with the tectonic plate that Japan sits on, causing a major imbalance in the ecosystem, leading to the disaster which is also termed as the Great East Japan Earthquake in Japan.
The 2011 earthquake had some considerable impact on the economy. Japan's economy had a downfall due to unemployment, reduction in the industrial production, demolition of infrastructure. There was an increase in imports by 11.9% and decrease in imports by 2.2%. The country also faced high trade deficits, and Japan lost around 5.5% of capital stock. Now, to further the topic, Daniel will be presenting.
There are huge impacts on local people's life in Japan during 2011. The power shortage and the breakdown of supply chain management greatly affected the local people's life in Japan. And 0.5 million tsunami survivors in northeastern Japan lost their homes. A lot of people lost their jobs, their money, and their wealth during the 2011 devastation. And the transportation and communication industry greatly affected by the tsunami. And insurance companies refused to provide enough money to their customers because of the vast devastation and because of the more amount of money that they need to provide to their customer. And other thing, one of the major thing which is caused on local people is that the shortage of the staple food, because the Japanese people are mostly having fish like their staple food. So the devastation is greatly impacted the fishing industry in Japan. So those things made the people life very harder. And travel and tourism industry greatly impacted by triple devastation in Japan on 2011, and it is reflected on international market too. Some of the countries such as Thailand, New Zealand, and Australia experienced tourism and economic repression on 2011. And according to IATA, aviation industry downfall by 40% on 2011 due to the less number of international traveler and the domestic traveler. And many international cruise ships, such as the cruise ship giants such as Royal Caribbean and Celebrity cruise ships, recalled from their American base due to the devastation in Japan. And meltdown of the Fukushima nuclear plant made a lot of tension in Japan, and it caused the number of travelers. It decreased the number of travelers to Japan, and international tourist arrival dropped by 28% on 2011. Now I am passing my turn to Malvinder, who will be discussing the actions taken by the government.
Hello. Now I'm going to put the lights on the measures taken by the government and the other institutions during and after the disaster. Within the primary stage, with 72 hours, government deployed all the self-defense forces and organized a link between all the agencies, communities and task forces, and released all the required and requested funds for rescue operations. Next, government had designated a member of a parliament as a bridge between NGOs and social organizations and all the government agencies so that they can work in an efficient way. Next, government appealed for the international help. Unlike the previous one, like in 1995, during the earthquake, the government didn't ask about any help from the world because the level of the devastation is as compared less to the 2011 earthquake. The Japanese government and the World Bank collectively hosted Sendai Dialogue to learn the lessons from the disaster. And after the disaster, in June 2011, government allotted 19 trillions from their annual budget, and later on they increased the total of the allocated funds to 25 trillions to help and rehabilitation of the victims of the disaster. Now I'm going to tell about some of the measures taken by the hospitality industry. Like the hotel rooms will have colorful menus in every language like Chinese, Japanese, English and Korean, warning the guests of potential threats to the safety, including the earthquakes, typhoons, tsunamis and all the natural disasters. And some of the top resorts like the Axis and Kirishi have developed alarm systems and trained their staff for the future if there is any mishappening happen in the future. And at the last, many of the new hotels and resorts in Okinawa develop new building techniques, like they are now building their buildings on the higher levels so the water cannot approach there. And we will conclude with a short video which will reflect all the facts related to the 2011 earthquake in Japan. And now, thank you.
All across northern Japan, they felt it. A violent magnitude 9.0 earthquake on March 11, 2011. It was centered about 80 miles offshore, and tsunami warnings went up immediately. In coastal cities, people knew what to do next: run to higher ground. It's from these vantage points on hills and in tall buildings that incredible footage was captured. In Kesennuma, people retreated to a high-rise rooftop and could only watch in horror as tsunami waves inundated their city, knocking buildings into rubble and mixing into a kind of tsunami soup filled with vehicles, building parts, and contents. Seawater cascaded over sea walls and into cities. This video shows the water rushing over an 18-foot seawall into Kamaishi City. The seawall here was the world's deepest and largest, but not enough for the magnitude of the March 11 disaster. It was the largest quake ever known in Japan, and one of the 5 largest recorded in the world. More than 28,000 people are confirmed dead or missing. When 2 tectonic plates push together under the sea, the resulting earthquake sends an enormous burst of energy up through the ocean, displacing enormous quantities of water. With the upward motion, a series of waves expands in all directions. In deep water, these waves travel fast, up to 500 miles an hour, but only reach a height of a few feet. A passing ship might not even notice. But as the waves enter shallow waters, friction with the ocean floor lowers the wave's speed, but raises their height. This video is from a Japan Coast Guard ship confronting a tsunami wave in shallow water on March 11. And a rare view from the air, video of a tsunami wave approaching the shoreline. In Japan, some tsunami waves reached as far as 3 miles inland. Japan may be the most seismologically studied country in the world, and with more than 1,200 high-precision GPS stations, a geophysicist at the University of Alaska used the data to create a visualization of the March 11 quake. The waves of displacement that you see were moving as fast as 5 miles per second. In this photo, the ripples of tsunami waves are seen moving upstream in the Naka River at Hitachi-Naka City. New technology left an enormous amount of visual evidence for study in years to come, and can perhaps help us better understand the power of earthquakes and tsunamis and prevent loss of life in the future.